Hi, my name is Karen, and today we're going to take a little journey into Avignon in the south of France. Where is Avignon, I hear you ask? It is located in the south of France, and it is the fifth largest city in the Provence-Alpes-Côte d'Azur. It is located 690 kilometres from Paris. You can get to Avignon travelling by car on the autoroute A7, which runs north to south through central France, taking in Lyon on its way to Marseille. The other way that you could get to Avignon is by the TGV. So the TGV from Paris, you are looking at a 2-hour train trip, and it will arrive 2 k's out of town at the TVG station, and then you could hop on a local train that would take you to the Gare Central would take about 6 minutes. If you're in London and you want to go straight to Avignon rather than stop off in Paris, on a Saturday Eurostar has a weekly train that leaves from St Pancras and will get you to Avignon in approximately 6 hours. In 539 BC, the Phrygians from Marseille on the highest point in Avignon, and from there we've grown. Avignon proved to be a very strategic location with the emergence of 2 rivers, and they are the Rhone River, which is still one of France's largest rivers today, and the now dammed Durance River. This proved to be a great logistical spot for communication and trade all throughout the prehistoric and right through to the Middle Ages. In the 14th century, we saw popes move into Avignon. They already had a presence in Avignon, but when unrest in Rome took off, they moved the papacy up to Avignon and made it their base for 70 years, and 7 popes in that time ruled or oversaw the church from Avignon and developed the papal palace, which we'll talk about in a little while. Another feature of Avignon that we can thank the popes for is the massive ramparts that runs around the outer of the old city, and they were built mainly to keep the plague and invaders out during that 14th century time. Go in and have a look at some tourist highlights that you might want to consider on a visit to Avignon. As I said, the Papal Palace, after 70 years of reign, quite a large Gothic edifice was left behind. So the Papal Palace, after the popes moved out, was ransacked during the Revolution, and so a lot of the majesty and the wealth disappeared. And then in the following years, the Papal Palace did have a few other uses, including a military base. The people of Avignon took back the Papal Palace and decided to return parts the way it was originally. Today we can visit the Papal Palace, and it is a great look at medieval architecture. There's frescoes on the wall, like faded frescoes on the wall. There are like little hidey holes and a few other things. Great stained glass if you're into stained glass, which we are. And it's a bare but fascinating place to explore. Right next door to the Papal Palace, we have the Musée du Petit Palais, and it is another great 14th century building that houses over 325 Renaissance paintings and sculptures, both from Avignon and the area and Italy, because obviously of that influence there. Pont d'Avignon. As I said, in prehistoric and medieval times, Avignon was a strategic place for trade and communication because of the convergence of the rivers, but also for a long time it was one of 3 locations that had a bridge across the River Rhone from Lyon down to the Mediterranean, so it held a great importance. And one of those bridges was the Pont d'Avignon. Also famous, a 15th century child's nursery rhyme that is still sung today about dancing on the bridge, although apparently in the 15th century. They didn't dance on the bridge, they danced under the bridge, and that's where this French nursery rhyme came from. Built between 1177 and 1185, the bridge consisted of 22 arches, of which now only 4 survived due to war and flooding and damage that it had sustained. Roches des Doms is a garden with walking paths and a massive duck pond and an outcrop that helps you look out over the city and up the river and out to the Apilles Mountains. So up in Roches des Doms is a vineyard, and it is actually the only vineyard in France that you will find completely located within the city limits. And that's appropriate because Avignon is actually the head of the Côtes du Rhône appellation, so that's the people that monitor how wine is made in that region. Place de la Horge is the main square that's found between the river and the Papal Palace, and in this square there are lots of cafes and little stalls that you can find and shops where you can find local delicacies and handmade things to enjoy. Also, the opera is located there. From this main square, Place de la Horge, there are lots of alleyways and streets running off it, which makes exploring the rest of the city really, really easy. If exploring on foot doesn't excite you, there is always the petite train, which, as we know with petite trains, they can get up those little narrow alleyways and will make sure that you see the highlights of the city from the outside. El de Barthelais is a park on the other side of the Rhône River, and from there you can find this vantage spot to have a picnic and look back and see the enormity of this amazing skyline that is dominated by the Papal Palace and the Gold Angel of the Notre Dame that sits next door. Speaking of picnics, why not go and visit the Avignon Les Halles market, where you can pick up your picnic items, shop like a local, and get some other delicacies as well, as in marzipan. Musée Cavalet is a great gallery that houses French and European art that is just outside of the Place de la Horge. Rue des Teniers. Now this is a street that between the 1300s and the 1800s was home to Avignon's silk spinning and dyeing industry. The canal that runs down along this street still has remnants of the past, with 4 water wheels sitting beside the water. A beautiful, tranquil place worth exploring. And lastly, if you want to look at something a little bit unique to the area, we know that Provence is really, really famous for its lavender fields, and in July, just the painting of purple carpet everywhere. Why not visit Chateau du Bois in Avignon? It's a shop of one of the producers. They actually have a museum that's a little bit out of town that would be worth a day trip if you were looking to do something like that. But within this shop there are lots of lavender based products, and also just a little bit of a insight into some of their production. And that shop is just a few minutes away from the Pont d'Avignon. The Côte d'Azur area is known for red wine, with 60% of their wine being produced is red wine. 35% of their wine is now rosé, and I've got to say, I'm particularly fond of a rosé from the area. And then that leaves 5% that are white. Plenty of choices for all wine connoisseurs. If you like, well, no matter what you like, there'll be something for you. For me, I like to stay in the centre of town. Cheapest that I found was a couple of streets down from the Place de la Horge, and it started from $85 a night without breakfast. We spent 24 hours or there just under in Avignon, and in our time we enjoyed an amazing lunch, people watching in the Place de la Horge in one of the centre cafes. We had our first try of their rosé, and I've got to say it was love at first sip for me. The Papal Palace was fascinating for us. We just spent time wandering around in all the rooms, taking in what we could, listening to the audio tour, and enjoying a Magnum at the very top of the building at the little cafe there. But it's just a beautiful city to walk around, really. We spent most of the afternoon just exploring. We went over and paid to go onto the Ponte Avignon, and it was just a really lovely time. It's the continuity of the buildings because of the time, and the fact that they would build close to, like their building materials would come from the region. It always makes those medieval towns just feel so cohesive and easy to walk around. So do yourself a favour, have a look at Avignon. Now, if you've been to Avignon and we've missed your highlight, put it in the comments. If you have not, why not subscribe to our channel so that you can get our updates on our destination overviews and our mindset videos as they come out. Thanks for watching. Have a great day. I'm Karen, and we will chat soon. Travel safe.